Putin keeps lying about Kupiansk encirclement, while the battle has reached breaking point. Russian forces stormed the city, desperate for a symbolic victory, yet the momentum has flipped. Ukraine is striking back from 4 directions, slicing Russian units apart, cutting their supply lines and trapping them in the very streets they claimed to liberate. Under relentless Ukrainian drone surveillance and precision fire, Russian gains collapse into chaos. Ukraine encircled Russian forces in 4 directions. In Kupiansk. In Kupiansk, the intensity of urban warfare has reached its peak, with Russian forces attempting to break into the city and secure a symbolic victory for the Kremlin. Yet the situation has shifted dramatically. Instead of collapsing under pressure, Ukrainian defenders are now the ones counterattacking, splitting Russian units, cutting off their logistics and pushing to encircle them inside the very streets the Kremlin claimed to have liberated. Russian bombardments have been relentless, lighting up the city day and night. But despite Moscow's dramatic declarations, the reality on the ground is very different. Russian troops control only about 30% of Kupiansk, and their presence consists mostly of scattered infiltration groups operating in unstable pockets. General Sergei Kuzovlev recently assured Vladimir Putin that Kupiansk had been fully liberated after months of fighting. In practice, however, Russian gains are narrow, fragile, and heavily contested. The entire western bank of the Oskil River remains a grey zone, where Ukrainian defenders and Russian infiltrators clash constantly. Much of what Moscow calls liberated territory is, in fact, no more than thin, overstretched footholds. 2 core weaknesses define Russia's situation. First, all supplies must cross the Oskil River under constant surveillance by Ukrainian drones, turning every crossing into a high-risk operation. Second, Russia advanced into Kupiansk with small infiltration groups and insufficient reserves, leaving them overextended and unable to consolidate control. After 2 months of grinding assaults, they have secured only a handful of streets. To prevent Kupiansk from falling and to protect Ukrainian units east of the river, Kiev established a new joint forces group led by Major General Mikhailo Drapachi. This formation brings together Ukraine's most motivated and combat-ready troops with a clear mission: clear the city and reverse the Russian advance. Rather than allowing Russia to entrench, Ukrainian forces are striking with agile, localized counterattacks designed to widen the grey zone, disrupt enemy positions, and deny them the ability to dig in. Ukraine's counteroffensive in Kupiansk unfolds across 4 coordinated axes. First, Ukrainian units are targeting Russian strongholds in the northern part of the city. These positions are now cut off from major supply routes, and eliminating them would sever Russia's ability to move reinforcements into Kupiansk entirely. Second, Ukrainian special forces are conducting raids on the eastern bank of the Oskil River to identify Russian staging areas. They relay this intelligence to the Air Force, enabling precise strikes that cripple Russian logistics and restrict troop movement across the river. Third, Ukrainian assault units are pushing in the southwestern and southern districts, clearing out smaller Russian groups, preventing deeper infiltration and shortening the defensive line. Fourth, these combined actions aim to create simultaneous pressure from all sides: north, east, southwest, and south, setting the stage for a full encirclement of Russian forces inside the city. Topography is playing a decisive role. Ukrainian troops and drone operators occupy elevated positions southwest of Kupiansk, giving them superior observation, longer lines of fire, and stronger signal transmission for drones. These vantage points allow Ukrainian assault teams to advance with precise, real-time drone support, an advantage Russian forces cannot match. Despite Russia's loud claims of encirclement and victory, the reality is clear. Most of Kupiansk remains contested, with Russians unable to bring in enough forces to stabilize their gains. Ukraine will not abandon its counteroffensive efforts. Kupiansk's strategic value is too high, and losing the city would endanger Ukrainian defenders operating along the river's eastern bank. Meanwhile, just outside the city, Ukrainian troops decisively repelled a mechanized Russian attack near Petropavlivka. Units from the 14th and 30th Mechanized Brigades reported that Russian forces advanced with armored personnel carriers, motorcycles, ATVs, and dozens of assault vehicles. Ukrainian artillery and attack drones immediately struck back.
By the end of the battle, Russia had lost 3 armoured personnel carriers, 9 other vehicles, and 26 assault troops. Ukrainian soldiers mockingly noted that Moscow's Great Offensive had gone up in flames before it even began. The Ukrainian General Staff confirmed that Russians attempt daily assaults toward Pischana, Petropavlivka, and Krylyakivka, and that the Kupiansk sector remains one of the most dynamic and demanding parts of the front. Despite Moscow's propaganda, fewer than 40 Russian radio signals were detected inside Kupiansk after their announcement of liberation, a stark indication of how exaggerated those claims truly were. Ukrainian units continue to strengthen their firepower on the outskirts of the city, blocking Russian supply lines and hunting down infiltrators who slip through the defensive grid. Ukraine's unmanned forces cripple Russia's Shadow Fleet and dominate the battlefield. Ukraine's unmanned forces dealt another major blow to Russia's war economy after a series of maritime drone strikes disabled 2 tankers used to evade international sanctions. In a joint operation by the Security Service of Ukraine, SBU, and the Navy, upgraded Sea Baby maritime drones hit the sanctioned tankers Cairo and Virat in separate attacks on November 28th and 29th, delivering precise and heavy damage. Drone footage released by Ukrainian security services shows the exact moment a Sea Baby slammed into one of the tankers, triggering a massive explosion near its stern. According to SBU sources, both vessels suffered critical structural damage and have become inoperable, halting their mission to transport oil for the Kremlin's shadow economy. The morning after the initial strikes, Turkey's Ministry of Transport confirmed an additional hit on Virat. The tanker sustained fresh damage along its starboard side. No fire broke out, but authorities stated the crew remained stable and emergency teams stayed at a safe distance while inspecting the vessel. Separately, Turkish officials reported that Cairo's crew of 25 sailors had been evacuated after the first explosion and onboard fire. Sources told Hromadska that the Sea Baby drones were equipped with enhanced long-range navigation systems and more powerful warheads, enabling them to reach Russian-bound tankers traveling toward Novorossiysk for loading. Ukrainian estimates suggest the vessels could have carried oil worth up to $70 million, money that would have directly fueled Russia's war effort. These drones disabled vessels used to bypass sanctions and finance aggression against Ukraine, an SBU representative said. Both tankers are part of Russia's so-called Shadow Fleet, a covert network of nearly 1,000 repurposed or aging ships that falsify tracking data, hide ownership, and operate under flags of convenience to move sanctioned oil. Earlier investigations revealed that this clandestine fleet accounts for nearly 1 in 6 global oil shipments. With every successful attack, Ukraine's maritime drones tighten the pressure on Russia's logistics and directly undermine the Kremlin's ability to sustain its war without risking human lives. On land, Ukraine's rapidly expanding unmanned arsenal demonstrated its combat potential in dramatic fashion. During nighttime testing near the front line, a robotic ground platform armed with a Browning M2 heavy machine gun engaged a Russian MT-LB armored carrier at extremely close range. The platform, operated by soldiers of the 5th Separate Assault Brigade, encountered the MT-LB as it approached Ukrainian positions for an assault. Despite the surprise, the unmanned system immediately opened fire. At such close distance, the M2's armor-piercing rounds, capable of penetrating up to 25 millimeters of steel, were likely powerful enough to breach the Soviet-era vehicle's thin armor. Although the exact damage remains unknown, the encounter proved that ground robots can deliver lethal force even against armored targets. Footage shows the Ukrainian drone repositioning after its first burst and continuing to fire, even though the MT-LB had improvised anti-drone cages mounted on its hull. The robotic unit's ability to adjust, track, and maintain fire highlights the growing sophistication of Ukraine's land-based unmanned platforms. Until now, most Ukrainian ground drones have been used for logistics, evacuating wounded soldiers, delivering ammunition, or resupplying frontline positions. Direct combat engagements remain rare, but as analysts note, these early confrontations signal the beginning of a new phase in warfare, one where small, mobile, weaponized robots operate alongside infantry and drones in the air and at sea.
Wider deployment of such systems will require purpose-built combat platforms, unified tactics, and battlefield doctrines. Still, the technology is advancing rapidly. Recent satellite imagery shows that Russia is withdrawing hundreds of MT-LB vehicles from deep storage, suggesting heavy losses and an urgent attempt to reinforce its lines. Ukraine's unmanned systems, meanwhile, continue to evolve and are increasingly capable of destroying those vehicles without putting Ukrainian soldiers at risk. From the Black Sea to the trenches of the Eastern Front, Ukraine's unmanned forces, sea drones, aerial drones, and now ground robots are reshaping how modern wars are fought. Sea Baby drones are striking targets hundreds of kilometers away and crippling Russia's shadow fleet. Ground robots are taking their first steps toward frontline combat roles, once reserved only for soldiers. Ukraine is not simply adapting to the battlefield, it is redefining it, using technology to offset manpower constraints, disrupt Russian logistics, and impose continuous pressure across every domain. In a war where innovation often decides survival, Ukraine's drone capabilities are proving to be one of its greatest strategic strengths. Ukrainian Marines fully liberates Ivanivka. After eliminating 53 Russian soldiers and capture 19. Ukrainian Marines have completely cleared the village of Ivanivka in Dnipropetrovsk Oblast after a series of coordinated search and strike actions targeting Russian forces operating in the area. According to the 37th Marine Brigade, the operation resulted in 53 Russian soldiers killed and 19 captured, all of whom were identified as members of the 228th Assault Regiment of Russia's 91st Tank Division.
The sweep was carried out within the responsibility zone of Ukraine's 20th Army Corps. This clearing action comes as Russia continues attempting to seize the remaining parts of Donetsk Oblast and pushes into the adjacent southeastern districts of Dnipropetrovsk Oblast. These cross-border assaults are part of Moscow's broader effort to widen pressure along the front. The 37th Separate Marine Brigade of Ukraine's 30th Marine Corps reported that its units had conducted a series of precise and aggressive search and strike missions in and around Ivanivka. By the end of the operation, Ukrainian troops had eliminated all Russian elements remaining in the village and its southern outskirts. The brigade emphasized that every occupying soldier who enters Ukrainian soil will face consequences, whether elimination or capture. Ukrainian defense analysts later confirmed that the Marines had fully secured the settlement, ensuring that no Russian infiltration groups remained active in that part of the front line. The brigade noted that the outcome once again demonstrates a consistent pattern. Russia's presence in Ukraine inevitably ends in heavy losses and accountability. These events unfolded against the backdrop of intensified Russian actions across the front line. According to Ukraine's General Staff, Russian forces conducted 56 attacks in multiple sectors, including Yalta, Tolsta, Ivanivka, Andriivka-Klevtsove, Oleksandrograd, Sikneve, Vorone, Sosnivka, Stepove, Verbove, Vishneve, Zlahoda, Pidubne, Voskresenka, Privilne, Krasnohirske, and Yehorivka. Despite these waves of assaults, Ukrainian defensive lines continue to hold and respond with targeted countermeasures. The Ivanivka operation followed another successful clearing mission on the 23rd of November, when Ukraine's 42nd Separate Mechanized Brigade eliminated Russian shelters near Novopavlivka and captured 2 enemy soldiers. These back-to-back operations highlight Ukraine's growing effectiveness at identifying, isolating, and dismantling Russian infiltration groups across multiple fronts.